Real peace in a family is loud. I know that sounds a bit strange, but stay with me for a second and I'll explain. A child who feels safe at home, a child who feels truly safe at home is never quiet. They're either hopping on your back or looking out the window, waiting for you to drive in. And the moment they know that you are pulling up on your driveway, they are screaming your name out loud. They are waiting for you to drop your bag down. And even before you do, they are already giving you details and stories about how their day went. And the moment they start a story, they actually most of the time abandon that story halfway because a new event just took over their minds, and they are very quick and eager to share those experiences with you. Now, these moments can be a bit messy, but they show the unfinished version of everything that is happening in the life of the child. And that's because they trust you enough not to polish those events first. They trust you enough not to perform it. They're not performing. That's the real personality. That's the true feeling. That's the true way they feel deep down in their hearts. Now, that right there is what peace truly feels like in a family setting. That is what peace actually feels like in a family. Now, I'm going to give you a list of what peace does not look like in a family. Number one, a child who never argues. A home where nobody dares to question anything. A dinner table where everything is calm and everyone just nods from the start of the meal to the end of it. That is not peace. That's a child who has learned somewhere along the line, somewhere along the way, that it was safer to be quiet. And the most dangerous thing about that kind of quiet is that it looks identical to peace, and people often mistake it for peace. From the outside, that's what it seems like, but mostly because of the calmness that seems to be around it. But here's the issue here with that kind of calmness and peace. One day, everything seems quiet and cool until one day that quiet becomes permanent. And then you suddenly realize that you're left standing there, and then you're wondering, when did this all happen? How did I miss this? Where was I? How come I didn't get it? But sometimes at that particular moment, it may already just be too late. And that is what today is about. That is why I'm seated here. That is why I'm in front of you with my tape in hand. My name is Nosa, and this is Family Journey Online, where we help young parents build strong families. Families so strong that their kids hate to leave and love to come back to. And that's because we realize and we understand, and I'm sure you would agree with me, that strong families do not happen by accident. So let's dive right in. Let me describe something, and please tell me honestly if you recognize it. So you decide today is the day, you create a moment, you sit down, you put your phone away, you turn the TV off, and you say to your child, hey, talk to me. What's going on with you? And then they look at you and they say, I'm fine. Now, here's my question, and I want you to really think about this before you answer. Is that child truly fine? Do you, in your heart of hearts, truly believe that that child is fine? Or is fine just another word that ends the conversation without breaking anything, without anything breaking? Because here's the fact, and here's what I think is actually happening in that very moment. That child, whether they're 9 or 19 or even 29, has learned something. They've learned something very important to them. They've learned that bringing something real to you at a particular moment is not safe. It's costly. And they've actually decided and determined within their hearts that they cannot afford that cost. Now, maybe the cost is them being dismissed. Maybe the cost is them getting themselves involved in a situation where you start to lecture them. Or maybe the conversation somehow becomes about you instead of about them. And maybe actually the last time they actually allowed themselves to take on that cost and suppress that feeling that this is an expensive move, it actually led to a situation where something they said was used against them. Now, I can't cover all the scenarios or the possibilities. There are a lot of them. But at the end of the day, they've talked about something. There's been a muscle memory, there's a remembrance of some sort that has made them decide to protect themselves. And here's the blunt reality that every parent needs to have at the back of their mind and consider very closely. They are not doing this because they hate you. They are not doing it to hurt you. And they are not being difficult. That's not what's going on. Seeing it that way is the first thing you will do to miss the whole situation and misinterpret it. They have just forgotten something. They have forgotten what it felt like to bring something real, something true, something personal to you and have it held properly. And because they've forgotten, they do not reach for it anymore. Even when part of them wants to really open up, wants to speak to you, wants to relate with you at the particular level that you want. But there's history, and that history is preventing a whole lot of progress from happening. So the events of the past has become a stumbling block for the future that you want. And here's what makes this specific kind of distance different from the regular arguments or the recent falling out. There are families where the child and the parent just had a recent fallout. For those cases, the approach is different. For this one, where it's been a long time, when the door has been closed for a pretty long time, the child is not just protecting themselves from something that happened. They're actually protecting themselves from something that they now expect will happen. They're not protecting themselves from what has happened. Whatever has happened, they've digested it. They've learned from it. They've moved on. Right now, you coming that warm to them, they are protecting themselves from what will happen. And that's because they are expecting that you will do what you normally do. You'll do it again. They've already decided that based on enough evidence and based on enough event that has repeated themselves over time, that you will. And that shift from protecting against something that happened to protecting against something that will happen, something that they expect to happen, is a very important aspect of this whole discourse. Now, that is the moment the door stops being closed and starts being sealed. Now, the door being closed is talking about moments when there's just been a fallout. But over time, after a fallout, an unrepaired fallout, a fallout where there was no reconciliation, where there was no move made to repair, the door starts being sealed. And I want to ask you as a parent right now, honestly, do you know which one of these two scenarios you're dealing with right now? Is it a closed door or a sealed one? Because the approach is completely different. And getting it wrong at this stage can make things go from bad to worse. If you're a parent, I'd like to hear from you. When did you first notice that the door was closing? Not when it got sealed, but when it started to close, when things started to move in the direction that you really do not want, when things started to move in the direction where you are right now. When did you feel it starting to move? Because I think that moment is actually earlier than most parents care to admit. It happens much, much, much earlier. Tell me in the comments. I'm reading everything, and I believe that there are other parents and other people as well who are doing the very same thing.